Testing 1, 2, 3. How you folks doing? My name is James Klim. This series of videos, there's more than one, is on completing an anterior zirconia case. I posted a case on my blog at thekliminstitute.com several months ago on before and afters of a zirconia case that I did chairside. Why would I do zirconia anteriorly? I like ceramics when I'm doing anterior work. But for this case, I used zirconia for several reasons. Number one, subgingival decay issue with this patient. He's been a patient of mine for years, had a metabolic shift, some health issues, got a lot of subgingival decay. So I like zirconia for that, number one. And then number two, when I'm reaching subgingivally, I can finish a margin better with zirconia. I also find that the tissue response is ideal to zirconia. And then I'll cement that with a resin glass ionomer. In this case, it was the Zircad cement by Aviclar, which I absolutely love. I'll do another video on that, on how I place in zirconias as well. But for this video, this is finishing green zirconia. It will be the lateral and central. There's another video that I'll post below with a link on finishing the canine. My two favorite zirconias right now, chairside is Zircad MT Multi for aesthetics with a CS6 that will optimize that centering to really give nice aesthetics. That's what this case was done with. I'm also up here at my digital studio where I'm using the PM7, and this case was designed on Exocad. You can use DS Core, export that into the DS Core as a DXD file, and DS Core also has the Exocad file feature of conversion, so you can upload that to Exocad from the prime scan and have a really nice colored model to work with. I do like the PM7 when I'm not producing these restorations in the same day. I have fallen in love also with the prime aesthetic. We don't have that chairside in a block, but we do have it in a disc, and it's very translucent. I'm actually using prime aesthetic A1 to finish this workflow here that I'm documenting with the camera. The original case was done with Zircad MT Multi. I find that they're very, very close, and those are my two zirconias that I go to for anterior work. So once we finish the green zirconia, working through that workflow using the Meisinger JK04 zirconia lab kit, each burr, each finisher is placed there for a very specific reason, and that workflow will allow us to get this project done in a very short period of time. The principles of texturing zirconia are the same as ceramic, except it's a little more exaggerated because there is a shrinkage when our zirconia is centered. So once you get that flow, it's actually easier to texture than ceramic, but it's a different feel. I want to back up for a moment. Within the design software, I want to finish 90 to 95% of that design, which would be line angles, embrasures, primary and secondary anatomy in the software. So once that's machined and it comes out of the milling unit with the proper interproximal parameters, all we do is texture. Once it's centered, these should just drop right in. I don't even have to touch them. That's where we are with digital dentistry today. The precision is there for us. With good records, we can expect a really nice fit, and it's really a lot of fun to do this. So this video is about texturing a central and a lateral. There's another video link below on texturing the canine. Once these are centered, I'm using the S2 for the prime aesthetic. That's the optimal furnace for disc zirconia in a laboratory, and I'm glad I have that up here in my digital studio. There will be other videos on doing the final stain and glaze. For that, I use either Avicolor or Mio. On this case, I did use Mio. I'll have those videos posted as well. It's going to be a lot of fun to go through this workflow. I never imagined a few years ago that I would be satisfied with anterior zirconia. We have the tools to do it now. I do see a lot of great cases posted online with anterior zirconia. I know it's taking more of a presence. There is a different refractory index to zirconia. It will exhibit a difference in different light more than a ceramic or a natural tooth. That's called metamerism, and you have to be aware of that process because our patients are a lot more critiquing now because they have selfies and cell phones. I just had a patient in the other day that loved her anterior ceramics in the office. She may find 2 selfies that don't work out of 15, and then it just destroys her perception of her smile. So we have to deal with that more than we used to, but we're getting through it, and we have to explain that to patients. So let's go ahead and get started with this texturing and have some fun.
It's preferable to use gloves when you're managing zirconia, mainly to protect yourself, and a good vacuum system as well that has HEPA qualities. A small carbide flame burr is ideal for removing the holding bars, whether it be a block or on a puck. We want to be careful to make sure that that restoration doesn't fall to the lab bench. Here on the puck, we're removing the holding bar attachments, and notice my hand catches the restoration as it's relieved from the disc, so no margins are chipped. We're using a healthy vacuum HEPA quality system here to collect that zirconia dust. It's not a friend in our respiratory system or on our hands, so be careful with managing your system. Our next step is to clear off those holding bar attachments from the restoration. Here we're going to use a pointed Christmas tree carbide, low RPMs. Carefully remove that holding bar attachment zone. I'm using probably around 2,000 to 5,000 RPMs. Carefully remove those zones, making sure that we don't gouge the soft zirconia. Our next step is to start the fun part, and that's microtexturing zirconia. There's two sizes of flame diamond burrs on the JK04 lab kit. This is a 3.1 millimeter. Our objective here is to highlight and enhance the existing design from the software, and that is the primary depressions. A very light touch is used to amplify and create texture in those depressions with the larger flame diamond. While we're there, we're going to go ahead and smooth the emergence. Anywhere where those holding bars were, we can smooth that, providing a little texture with the diamond application of this burr. Moving over to the centered flame diamond 1.6, it's smaller. It provides a little more creativity, a little more microtexturing just to highlight some of those small sensitivities on a enamel-like surface. Now with zirconia, we're going to amplify our texturing because this is going to shrink during the centering aspect. Lateral little horizontal striations of texture are a lot of fun to apply in those primary depressions. It's going to be very subtle once this is centered, and if you add any type of stain and glaze to this surface, it will be very minute in the final outcome. However, it really makes that surface look natural with the reflection and deflection of light. I love microtexturing for creativity. Often on enamel, you'll see those subtle little horizontal depressions in the convex areas and pericomata in the cervical zone. The secret here is to be creative. Don't let it look too planned. Nature is not significantly planned as you get into the micro qualities of a surface. Our last phase of finishing this zirconia restoration is pre-centered luster finishing. This is a twist polisher medium on the JK04 lab kit. It's ideal for polishing the convex areas and smoothing any rough zones, particularly there at the margin. If you're polishing away from the margin, it will not gouge that margin and create a shy margin, which we don't want. But it's ideal for luster finishing. In fact, quite often this is as far as I go when the case will need infiltration to amplify the saturation cervically or lower the value or a combo of that. I can do that better with infiltration than stain and glaze, and it looks more natural on zirconia. The beige high shine twist is ideal, and this is from the JK04 lab kit, when I'm planning to either polish or add stain and glaze just to the labial surface here. What you will find is that the final surface, once it comes out of the sintering furnace, is pretty polished already, and it's expedient to add that final polish, particularly on the lingual. In fact, it's recommended not to place glaze on functional surfaces, and I try to keep the glaze off of subgingival surfaces as well. So this beige pink polisher is ideal for creating that pre-center luster to finesse and fine-tune that surface. And the follow-up polish, once this restoration is centered, is very simplistic. There we go. We have some nice texture there. It's going to be fun to center this and see what we arrive to on the other side. And there it is, some microtexturing. So now you want to choose. Anteriorly, I like to add Mio or Ivocolor to my labial surface to fine-tune and create more of a ceramic enamel look. Let's sit back and relax and watch the process for a lateral. They are different than centrals. Laterals are not miniature centrals. They mainly have a more measly placed primary depression. This is initiated in the software. All we're doing here is placing that texture, enhancing that primary depression, making it look natural, low RPM, really light touch. Same approach we used for the central. And when you're texturing like this, you want to get that same flavor across the board from central, lateral, and to the canine. So when I do texture like this, I like to do it in one sitting because it's more of an artistic feel that you create, particularly for the pericomata and the other minute texturing that is accomplished. So let's sit back and watch this process. The same steps are used as with the central. Start with a larger diamond first, smaller diamond for microtexturing, and then the pre-centered luster finishing. And before you know it, you're done. And when you repeat this time after time after time, being creative, one will become very proficient. And that's how we improve our efficiency and accomplishing this type of texturing in a very short period of time. It's just a lot of fun. Make sure you stay in your creative mode. This becomes an art. Using a pencil grip, lightly drag that small flame diamond, and you can create those vertical line depressions in the surface. Once this is centered, it's very subtle, but you'll see them there. And we do that with that fine tip of this centered small diamond. Now we're getting a nice look. It's exaggerated. We're going to come back with that pink twist, just a medium pink twist, to smooth the convex areas and any area close to the margin and neutralize any zone that was over textured. It's so simple to do. Low RPM, light touch. Make sure you hold that restoration with your fingers. It can fly across the room, and that's always disappointing because usually it chips the margin.
wasn't that fun. I find that texturing zirconia is easier than a ceramic. You do use a really light touch. The workflow presented in this video comes from many years of working with zirconia. What I have found in my hands is I do the texturing and the luster finish in the same steps every time. And with that, I get done in a very short period of time and I get more predictable. I get better at what I do. And with zirconia, we do exaggerate the texturing a little bit more because that block's gonna shrink. But once it's fired, it actually looks really, really nice. Anteriorly, I don't polish that much. Molars, I polish almost all my restorations. As I get into the premolar, canine anterior zone, I will place on some type of glaze and stain. I do like the Mio because it's more of a brush on ceramic. It does have depth. As you see, within these incisal edges, it looks as though there is a cutback and layering, and that's really what I'm looking for when I'm working with zirconia. So the Mio really comes in handy. Any comments and questions? Make sure you post them below. I'd love to hear your feedback. Talk to you in the next video.